Hello everybody, welcome to Haiku Talk. I'm your host, Ben Ga, your friendly neighborhood haiku poet, and today we're going to be taking a look at a piece from the latest issue of Blithe Spirit from poet Maeve O'Sullivan, a haiku with the first line of blackberry crumble. So you know what that means? It's time to sit back, relax, grab yourself a tasty beverage, and let's haiku. Welcome back, everybody. Good to be with you again for another episode of Haiku Talk. And I'm happy to be featuring my friend Maeve O'Sullivan from Dublin on this week's episode with a really cool piece that has just a lot of cool stuff tied within it. So let's get right to the poem, shall we? Blackberry crumble, memento of our ginko, 6 mosquito bites. Blackberry crumble, memento of our ginko, 6 mosquito bites. Very nicely done. Now, we'll start with the structure of the poem, and I think there's two ways you could read this. The first would be to follow the fragment and phrase structure that we talk about a lot here on the channel, with the first line of blackberry crumble being the fragment, and lines 2 and 3, memento of our ginko, 6 mosquito bites, being the phrase. But I also think you can read it as a middle pivot poem, and that's the way I prefer to read that. So the middle pivot poem, or a middle pivot, basically in a 3-line haiku, the middle line acts as the pivot between the image in line 1 and the image in line 3. So that line speaks to both of those two and is the thing that ties the poem together and gives it its whole reason for being, as it were. And if you read the poem that way, lines 1 and 2 tie together nicely. Blackberry crumble, memento of our ginko. And lines 2 and 3 read together nicely. Memento of our ginko, 6 mosquito bites. Yeah, I like that a lot. Now, one thing that we'll need to talk about here is ginkgo. What is that? If you're not familiar with that word and its usage, in this case it's not being used to represent a tree, but it's a shortened way to refer to a ginkgo walk. Now, a ginkgo walk is something that a haiku poet or a group of haiku poets can do together. The idea is you go for a walk someplace and you're quiet and you just observe what you walk, everything around you on your walk. At the end of that walk, you take some time to compose haiku based on the things that you experienced. And so in this case, ginkgo is referring to ginkgo walk. And it's obvious that a memento of our ginkgo walk, of our ginko, that's what we're talking about here in that middle line. Now, on such a walk, if we think that blackberry crumble is a memento of that, I can easily imagine picking blackberries along the way on that ginkgo walk, or seeing blackberries and then you're eating a blackberry crumble in a way to kind of rethink, remember, re-engage with that walk that you have. Now, the 6 mosquito bites is a little bit more clear. Obviously, when you're walking, you get bit by mosquitoes. So that ties together nicely. But having the middle line being the middle pivot, which ties those two lines 1 and line 3 together, also does something else. It makes the poem itself a third memento for the ginkgo. So you have 3 things as mementos. You have the blackberry crumble, you have the 6 mosquito bites, and then you have the entire poem itself serving as a memento for that walk. Very, very cool. And this is another example of how you can write about the past in the present in haiku. I've gotten questions before about how do you write about past events in a haiku, because a haiku needs to take place in the present tense. Well, you reference the past in the present, like this. So it's obvious that the ginkgo walk happened in the past, and you're referring to mementos from that trip, but you're calling attention to those mementos in the present. Look at the blackberry crumble. Look at these mosquito bites. These were mementos from that walk we did a while ago. Very cool. Very nicely done. Very expertly done. Maeve is no slouch here. She's a very, very wonderful and accomplished poet. And we see these tricks working very well here. Very well indeed. And so let's break this down line by line to showcase how it's working. So that first line, blackberry crumble. Blackberry crumble. Delicious first line. And first lines, as we talked about on this channel, they need to grab your interest, obviously. They need to engage your senses. They need to put you in a place. They need to hook you into the poem to want you to read further. And in this case, blackberry crumble, before I go anywhere further, I am immediately putting into memories of eating blackberry crumbles. And I do love blackberries, and I do love blackberry crumbles. So I'm hooked in this one right away. I want to know what's happening with this blackberry crumble because it's a delicious dish. And, I can eat it any time of day, any time of year. So I'm engaged. My senses are engaged. I can smell the crumble. I can taste the crumble. I can visualize what it is. I can think of times when I've had this piece, this dish, people that I've enjoyed that with, and all sorts of memories come with those first two words in that first line. It's very great. Very well done. So you move on to line 2. Memento of our ginko. Memento of our ginko. Very cool. What's nice about this one is that I know that the moment is being shared directly with one or another people. The word "our" in there tells me that this is a shared moment that's being brought up with another person or other people. It's intimate in that it's refers to a ginkgo walk, and ginkgo walks generally aren't something that hundreds of people go on. It's usually a very select group of people, maybe just 2 people. And in this case, you can make that as intimate as you want to believe it to be. And so this very nice thing, you're enjoying a wonderful dish. It's a memento of your ginkgo. And the other connection that you have then with the people in the poem is that they are fellow poets or people that at least appreciate poetry enough to go on a ginkgo walk. And so it's a very special kind of relationship that's going on with the people within the poem. They are like-minded. They share similar ideas about how to spend their time. They enjoy blackberry crumbles. So it's a very pleasurable experience that's being shared so far. And it is not only shared in the sense that it's a poem, but there's a direct communication between the I of the poem and the other of the poem. So it's a very nicely wound, intimate piece. Very good. We move on to line 3, 6 mosquito bites. 6 mosquito bites. And what's nice about this line is that it's not necessarily a beautiful image. Mosquito bites aren't fun. They are annoying. They last for a while. And, no one really enjoys getting them. And so it's nice to have this play between line 1, which is a very delicious, enjoyable thing, blackberry crumble, and 6 mosquito bites happening at the same time. And about how the good and the bad can really round out a really wonderful memory, a really wonderful time, a really wonderful walk that you shared with somebody. And then again, with all of that put together, with that middle pivot serving as talking to line 1 and line 3, you have this whole poem becoming a memento of the ginkgo. And that's just really, really well done. So thank you, Maeve. Thank you, Blithe Spirit. And thank you, dear listener, dear viewer, for coming along on another adventure of Haiku Talk. So with that, we'll wrap it up for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Do like this if you did like the content. Thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And if you have subscribed, think about getting notifications when new episodes arise. So thank you very much. Till next time, cheers, everybody. Cheers.